interacting with the on-screen keyboard. Whether you're typing text messages, entering email addresses, or unlocking your device, using the on-screen keyboard and numeric keypad is often necessary. So, let's focus on interacting with those two as a VoiceOver user. Okay, let's turn our attention to the different keyboards that are available by default for the iPhone when you begin editing a standard text field. 1. Letter keyboard, the default keyboard when typing letters. 2. Numbers and symbols. Keyboard accessed by tapping the Numbers button in the bottom left corner. Visually, this button has the numbers 1, 2, 3 on it. 3. Additional symbols keyboard, accessed by tapping the Symbols button, which only appears when using the Numbers and Symbols keyboard. To switch between these keyboards, you tap the corresponding button and navigate as needed. VoiceOver will announce which keyboard you're on after switching. VoiceOver offers 3 typing modes to suit different preferences. 1. Standard typing. Move your finger around the keyboard or numeric keypad to hear the keys announced. You can also move the focus by using swipes. The key is to locate the key on the screen you want pressed. After getting the focus into the correct position, you will then need to do a one-finger double tap to activate that key and type that character into the text field. 2. Touch typing. Move your finger around the screen until you locate the key on the keyboard or numeric keypad that you want pressed. As soon as you locate that key, you can lift your finger off the screen and VoiceOver will type that character. The trick is to make sure you keep your finger on the screen until you locate the correct key. Make sure that you do not press too hard on the screen, as this sometimes triggers pressure-sensitive controls. Try to glide your finger on the screen until you reach the desired location. Often, you will hear the letter you want verbalized and then hear it a second time as soon as your finger is lifted off the screen. This is how VoiceOver alerts you to what key was just pressed. 3. Direct touch typing. This mode allows you to type directly on the keyboard without waiting for VoiceOver feedback. It's faster, but requires more familiarity with the keyboard layout, as keys will be pressed as soon as your fingers touch the screen. This is how sighted people type, by looking at the keyboard and tapping the on-screen buttons. By default, you can switch between these typing modes, using the rotor and selecting Typing Mode. Swipe up or down to cycle through the options. If you have removed typing mode from your rotor, then navigate to VoiceOver Setting, then Typing Style. On this page, you can switch between the 3 input types. Typically, when you first enter a standard text field, you will be presented the standard alphabet keyboard, which slides up visually from the bottom of the screen. This means that often the text field itself moves to accommodate the keyboard sliding into place. In fact, the text field, many times, will end up in the middle of the screen even though you originally located it near the bottom of the screen. Sometimes, this initial keyboard has an @ symbol and a period key located to the right of the spacebar, but they are not always present. Before diving further into typing, let's familiarize ourselves with some of the keys in the standard letters keyboard layout. The on-screen keyboard typically consists of the Delete button, which is located at the top right corner of the keyboard. Activating this key removes characters to the left of the insertion point, which is what Apple calls the blinking text cursor, or the spot where text is inserted into the text field. Keep in mind, if text is selected, the Delete button will remove the entire selection in one quick move. The button in the bottom right corner changes depending on the context. It might say Return, Search, Go, or something else. VoiceOver will announce the button's label when you navigate to it, so always pay attention to what it says. The Dictation button, represented by a microphone icon, is located to the left of the spacebar. Double tap it to dictate text instead of typing. Use a 2-finger double tap to stop dictation once it has started. You may also use a 2-finger double tap to start dictation rather than using the Dictate button on the keyboard. Other buttons, such as Numbers and Symbols, are found on the other 2 keyboards. To input numbers or symbols, tap the Numbers button in the bottom left corner to switch to the Numbers and Symbols keyboard. Visually, this button has 1, 2, 3 on it. When you switch to the Numbers keyboard, the Numbers button switches to, say, Letters. For additional symbols, tap the Symbols button. This button is only available when the numbers keyboard is present and is located above the button that switches between numbers and letters. You can only access this keyboard from the numbers keyboard, so remember that you need to switch from the letters keyboard to the numbers keyboard before you can see this symbols button. All right, now that we have the different keyboards sorted, let's look a little closer at the insertion point, or the place where letters are inserted into the text field. Unlike the Windows environment, where screen readers typically announce the character the focus is underneath, Apple places the insertion point between characters. This is a very important distinction in how we edit text, because VoiceOver announces characters as the insertion point passes over them. The key thing to remember about the insertion point is that VoiceOver announces characters as the insertion point passes over them, meaning you need to keep track of how you are navigating. For example, if you are navigating backwards by character, the insertion point will be before the character as it is announced. If you are navigating forward through a word by using one-finger down swipes while characters is selected on the rotor, then the insertion point will be after the character that it announces. This has a direct impact on what happens when you activate the delete button on the keyboard, as you need to know where the insertion point is located to know which character will be deleted. When entering a passcode to unlock your phone, you'll be prompted with a numeric keypad, and you will need to move the focus onto each number in your passcode and activate those keys. The typing style you use will determine the exact steps, but bear in mind that the passcode field is a secure text field, so VoiceOver will not announce numbers as you activate the numeric keys. VoiceOver instead makes a very distinct sound, like this. Those sounds are designed to mask the numbers being read aloud. Whew, that was quite a bit, wasn't it? Thanks for hanging in there. But before I go, here's some tips for efficient keyboard interaction. 1. Practice the typing modes. Spend time experimenting with each typing mode to find the one that works best for you. 2. Familiarize yourself with layouts. The more comfortable you are with the keyboard layouts, the faster you'll be at typing and switching between keyboards. 3. Use dictation for speed. When typing long passages, dictation can save time. Just remember to review and edit your text afterward. 4. Leverage the rotor. Use the rotor to quickly change typing modes or navigate the keyboard more efficiently. With these tools and techniques, you'll be navigating and using the on-screen keyboard like a pro. Remember, practice is key to building confidence and speed. Happy typing! Alrighty, how about a joke before we go? Why did the on-screen keyboard blush? Because VoiceOver kept announcing its every move. Ba-da-bum. Take it away, human.
Well, thank you, Miss Nova. It's nice to know ya. Is it bad that AI is writing better jokes than humans now? Sheesh. All right, so for today's demonstration, we're going to hop into a standard text field. I'm going to use a text field located in the Messages app. So I've opened basically a conversation here to myself, and I'm going to put the focus down here at the bottom of the screen on the text field.
Message, iMessage, text field.
Now, in order to jump into that field, I need to double tap with one finger.
Message, text field, is editing, iMessage, insertion point at start.
Now, amongst that big mess of words, I listen for the phrase is editing. When I hear is editing, that's the key for me to think that the keyboard has now slid up and is now visible on the screen. It also means that the text field has now moved upwards on the screen to accommodate the keyboard, so it is now a little bit below middle. So if you're trying to find it manually, you would have to look there rather than down here at the bottom of the keyboard. Okay, now if I go ahead and explore down here in the keyboard area,
Cap G,
I
golf,
can move my finger around
Cap H, hotel,
and it announces the places where I'm touching on the keyboard.
Cap J, Juliet, Cap K, kilo.
Okay, I can also slide to the left to go backwards through that mess there.
Cap J, Cap H, Cap G, Cap F. Cap D. Delta.
Or I could start to flick to the right and go forward.
Cap F. Cap G. Cap H. Cap J. Cap K. Kilo.
Let's continue exploring the keyboard by looking at how we can switch from the letters keyboard, which is the one that shows up when you jump into any text field, to the numbers and symbols keyboard, because sometimes we want to get to numbers or some of the different symbols. So if I explore over here on the bottom left part of the keyboard,
Cap S, Cap A, selected, Shift. Numbers.
As soon as I find the numbers button, I can double tap. That
Letters.
button has now changed and it now says letters. And if I explore in the middle,
comma, left paren, right paren,
and up here
6.
at the top of the keyboard,
5, 4, 3, 2, hyphen,
that's where
1.
the numbers are on the top of the numbers and symbols keyboard. But we also have a third keyboard. Think of this as additional symbols. And if we want to get to that particular keyboard, we have to be on this numbers and symbols keyboard. And then over here on the left, there's a button
Symbols.
that says symbols, and I can double tap that.
Selected,
And it is now
numbers.
switched to this second symbols keyboard. And if I explore in the middle,
Comma, less than, question mark, greater than, percent, number sign, right brace,
there's all a
left
bunch
vertical
of
line.
extra symbols in there. So if you can't find it on the second keyboard, sometimes you have to go to the third keyboard. When I want to go back to the first letters keyboard, I go over here to the left and find a button that now says letters.
Period, numbers,
And I can
letters,
double tap and interact with that. And now
numbers,
that button says numbers, indicating that if we activate that button, we'll jump back to the numbers keyboard. So if I explore in the middle,
D,
back to
F,
we're back
G,
to the letters.
golf,
So now that we've taken a look at the different keyboards, let's turn our attention to how we get VoiceOver to press the keys on the keyboard for us. To do that, VoiceOver has 3 different typing modes. It has standard typing, it has touch typing, and it has direct touch typing. We'll go over all 3. Standard is the default. That's what VoiceOver starts when we first initialize VoiceOver. Standard mode involves moving the focus to the desired location. That means putting it onto the key that we want to press, and then doing a 1-finger double tap to activate wherever the focus is located. So in order to demonstrate that, I'm going to type a sentence, or I'm going to begin to work on typing a sentence here in this text field. We'll use the sentence, the red car drove around the green mountain. So to begin, I'm going to start to type the word the. That means I have to find the letter T on the keyboard.
Cap T, Tango,
Luckily, I put my finger right on top of it. Now I can double tap.
Cap T,
And VoiceOver announces the letter as it types it. Now I need to find the H, so I'll just put my finger on the keyboard.
Y, G, H, hotel,
You can tell I just slid my finger until I found the H. Now I'm going to do a double tap.
H,
And it repeats. You hear the little tap. It does the H. Now I'm going to do an E.
R, E, echo,
And double tap.
E,
Now, as soon as you put a space,
space, the,
VoiceOver announces the space, and then it says the word. Anytime we put in punctuation, VoiceOver will treat the preceding string of characters as a word, and it'll announce those out loud. All right, so the next word I need to find, or the next word I'm going to type, is the word red.
F, D, E, R, E, E, D, D,
And you can tell it's a matter of finding the letter and then doing a double tap. And you can get pretty fast at that. Another way, well here, let me put a space in.
space, red,
Another way of navigating through the keyboard is by using swipes. And so if I just touch here in the middle,
T,
and
Tango.
I'm on the T, the next letter that I'm looking for is C, so I could flick to the right until I get to C.
Y, U, I, O, P, A, S, D, F, G, H, J, K, L, Shift, Z, X, C.
There's C,
Charlie.
and I can double tap.
C.
Now I can flick back to the left until I get to the A.
X, Z, Shift, L, K, J, H, G, F, D, S, A.
And
Alpha.
double tap.
A.
And then go back to the left for the R.
P, O, I, U, Y, T, R. Romeo.
And double tap.
R.
Then add a space.
Space. Space, car.
And that has typed that word. So not necessarily a bad way of doing it once you kind of get the hang of it. Using standard typing, we also have another way of triggering keys on the keyboard, and that is using the split type gesture. Here's how you do this particular gesture. You would use one finger to find a key on the keyboard, and as soon as you find the key, you tap with a second finger, meaning you keep the first finger on the screen the whole time and you just tap with a second finger. I'll go ahead and demonstrate this. I'll type the first few words of that sentence.
Cap T, F, D, F, G, H, D, E, E, C, space, D, E, W, E, R, E, S, C, D.
And all I'm doing is as soon as I find my finger on the button that I want, I take my middle finger and I tap the screen.
C, V, space, red, F.
To trigger the button.
VOT, D, S, D, E, X, R, O, I, messages.
Now right there, I was using my pointer finger and I got over to the O and I couldn't get my middle finger on the screen because I was using my right hand. So you might have to experiment with using different fingers and such like that. I might have had to use my left pointer finger there instead of my middle finger on my right hand. But you get the idea. That's called the split tap. Most of us get used to the keyboard after a while. Even without sight, we know where the letters are and things like that. It's easier to find them. And so now I'm going to talk about the second keyboard input method, and that is touch typing. So to do so, because I've got this option on my rotor, I'm just going to spin my rotor.
Text effects, mentions, misspelled words, edit, live recognition, typing mode, standard typing.
And I'm going to flick down.
Touch typing.
Now we're on touch typing. With touch typing, what happens is I find the letters on the screen with my finger. As soon as I lift my finger off the screen, it is going to type that letter. So we do not have to do a double tap in order to activate. Actually, lifting your finger off the screen will trigger activate. And so it is definitely a faster way of typing. So the next word in the sentence is around. The next word in the sentence is drove. So let me find and do drove.
C, F, D, X, D, T, R, I, O, space, V, R, E.
And so you can tell it's definitely a little bit faster. Let me add a space.
Space, drove.
I'll do the next word around.
Shift, A, R, I, O, U, N, F, D, space, around.
Okay, so that can be a faster way if you know the keyboard. I'll now switch to the final mode, which is direct touch typing.
Text effects, mentions, misspelled words, edit. Live recognition, typing mode, direct touch typing.
Now, direct touch typing is more akin to what sighted people do. And the idea is that as you tap the screen, it's going to type the letters. I used to be somewhat decent at thumb typing when I could see, but I was by no means very, very good at it. The people that are really, really good at thumb typing can probably get away with using this method even though they can't see. It has a lot to do with muscle memory and things like that. I used to tell people that this particular method was kind of awkward because as you were trying to find keys, it would type them, but they've made a little bit of changes to where now you can move your finger around the screen and it's not until you actually tap the screen that it types the letter. So you get a little bit of freedom here to explore a little before you're actually penalized by typing a letter. So the next word in the sentence is the
F, T.
And so what I have to do is I have to find the letter and then I have to tap the screen at that exact spot.
G, H, H,
And so it's a little bit slower, but I could see how you could get better at it.
E, E,
I just happen to put my finger on the exact right spot.
space, space, the.
It takes a little bit of work and practice, but I could see how that could be useful. All right, so those are the 3 different input types. Before we leave the keyboard, let's talk about 3 special keys. First is the delete key located on the right side of the keyboard.
Tap L, delete.
Depressing that key will remove whichever letter is to the left of the insertion point. It's almost like a backspace key. Below the delete key,
Return,
is a key that can change depending on where you are on your phone. Right now it says return. Sometimes that can say go. Sometimes that can say search. It just depends on what you're doing on your phone. Think of that as almost like an enter key on a keyboard. All right, let's turn our attention to the 3rd special button on the letters keyboard, and that is the dictate button. This button has moved around over the years. I used to tell students, look to the left of the space bar. Now I can find it on my phone by going down here to the very bottom right corner.
dictate.
Using this button will activate dictation on our phone, which is a feature that turns what we say into typed words on the screen. It's a very handy feature. It's something that many of us that are visually impaired love using because we do not like to interact with the on-screen keyboard. And this is a way for us to just use our words verbally and get our phones to type that for us. Over the years, dictation has gotten much better. It used to be that I would tell people to talk like a robot and put spaces between your words. Nowadays, dictation has gotten a lot better. We can even make mistakes, and dictation will sometimes fix those mistakes and make it look like we didn't stumble or stutter or and things like that. So dictation as a VoiceOver user, fortunately, comes with a couple special sounds. It has a special ding that it makes when dictation starts, and there's a closing ding that it makes when dictation stops. These are very handy to let us know that between those 2 dings, our phone is going to try to type everything that it hears. All right, so let's take it for a spin. I'm going to put the focus down here on dictate.
Dictate.
And then do a 1-finger double tap to activate. The red car drove around the green mountain.
Inserted the red car drove around the green mountain.
Now, I don't know if you noticed, but when I wanted to stop dictation, I did a 2-finger double tap to stop dictation. So you can activate the dictate button located in the bottom right corner, and you'll hear a starting ding, talk, talk, talk. When you're finished, 2-finger double tap, and you'll hear a closing ding, followed by VoiceOver saying what it inserted into the text field. Now, VoiceOver does not always announce that, but typically it is supposed to announce that. We can also activate dictation without even finding the button located in the bottom right corner of the keyboard. If the focus is on a text field, you can start dictation by doing a 2-finger double tap. When you have finished dictation, you can do a 2-finger double tap to stop dictation. You'll hear the same dings to let you know dictation has started and stopped, but that is a much faster way of doing dictation. In fact, I can put the focus on the text field,
Message, iMessage, text field.
do a double tap to enter the text field.
Message, text field, is editing, iMessage, insertion point at start.
I'm listening for is editing, and right away I can do a 2-finger double tap to start dictation. The red car drove around the green mountain.
Inserted the red car drove around the green mountain.
And that's a much faster way to do dictation. Unfortunately, this does not work very well in email fields where we put an @ symbol, we put a period before .com and things like that. So VoiceOver tries to put spaces in there. So we have to tackle those fields in a different manner, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. So that's a look at the on-screen keyboard, the different ways that we can interact with the keys on the keyboard, and some of the special buttons. Remember, for the input types, we have standard typing, where you have to put the focus on a key and then activate. We have touch typing, where you can find a key and it will activate as soon as you lift your finger off the screen. And we also have direct touch typing, where you have to strike the screen with your finger or tap it a little bit in order to strike the keys. In our next segment, we're going to take a look at text editing and navigation using the rotor. And I'd like to thank Miss Nova for her help. Anything before we go, Nova?
Thanks, Humanoid. You really know that keyboard well. How about a keyboard joke before we go? Why do VoiceOver users double-check their dictation messages? Because let's grab coffee later can easily turn into let's grab fluffy tater. Hear ya later, human?